Hi everybody, I'm Tim Bulott and welcome to weaponsacademy.com. I'm here with Terry today, Terry Green. We're going to talk a little bit about patrol rifle setup because this is a question we get quite a bit, and patrol rifle is one of our more popular classes here. So another reason for doing this is to help folks know what to bring on their rifle when they come to class. What is an optimal setup for patrol rifle? And when I say patrol rifle, we're talking what you're going to carry in your cruiser on the street as a patrol officer. So this is not necessarily, Terry, for a range gun, right, or for, this is a hobby shooting. This gun is for work.
Right.
Okay, so Terry, you're more of the gun expert there, that you keep up with the latest and greatest in parts and so forth. This is my actual setup here, so why don't we just kind of go through this from front to back and talk about what's on there and why we carry it the way we carry it and so forth. So,
okay, so it's a Ruger SR556. So this is a piston-driven gun.
And I bought that when the piston guns were all the same. We had a little visitor there,
yeah,
right? When piston guns were all the rage,
yes,
right? But in truth, what can you do with a piston gun that you can't do with an impingement gun?
Pretty much nothing. What you're doing is you're pushing the weight out front on the gun a little bit.
The weight and the maintenance.
The weight and the maintenance goes to the front as opposed to back by the bolt carrier group, the gas key.
We find here a lot that you get the quote, what's a piston gun? I don't have to clean it as often.
It's not true, because you have to clean it. You just have to shift your focus to the front.
Focus
of the
up
gun.
there.
So there are fanboys out there of piston guns, fanboys of direct impingement guns, the gas guns. To me, they both work equally well. They serve their purposes. It comes down to a personal preference.
Personal preference. For me, this particular one here, the Ruger SR556, has been an outstanding. It's been an outstanding weapon. I mean, it's been flawless, and you've seen how many classes I've run this through.
It's had a lot of rounds.
And this is the one I carry on the street, and it's the one I teach with out here when I'm teaching patrol rifle. It's been flawless.
Right, and for you, I know you need to have a factory gun. That's one of the things that is
right. We do have to abide by policy,
right?
Which is an excellent point, because you don't want to, in my opinion, you don't want a custom gun that has a lot of competition bells and whistles on it for patrol, because it's got to work, and it's got to work when you need it to work.
Right, and then of course, obviously legally, you have to justify everything that
right.
you do.
Correct.
So, which is why the policy is there. So this is going to be running a factory mil-spec trigger. No modifications. Rail system is going to be the same rail system that came from
right,
Ruger,
and that's exactly the way this was set up.
Exactly. The optic you're running on this is the EOTech XPS 3 HWS, I believe. You're running what, Ruger factory irons?
Yeah, these are actually, I think they're Yankee Hill.
Okay.
Built these for Ruger.
For Ruger, yeah.
But since you brought it up, let's double tap on the site, okay? So I go with the EOTech, and the model number I have, it's got the controls right on the side, okay?
Yes.
It's also, because I use night vision, I've got a night vision button right here as well. What's good about this for a patrol rifle is, first of all, the field of view is open.
Brings it way
okay,
up.
The optic, the reticle is easy to access. You've got that, 67 MOA circle in there. You can use, a lot of people like using that bottom hash mark for close-in shooting and using the dot for long, and that's optional also. But more than that, because I have easy access to the buttons, when I'm deployed to a hot call and it looks like I need to be rifle ready upon arrival, I want to be rifle ready upon arrival. That means when I bail out of my unit, if I need to have the long gun, I need to have it ready. I don't need to get out and then get it ready, because what's the point? So I can deploy this from my storage rack in the vehicle, and because these buttons are right here, by muscle memory, and this is something you got to do in your training, I know 2 clicks to turn it on and how many clicks on one side for nighttime and how many clicks on the other side for daytime, and I'm right. I'm right most of the times. If not, I have to go to the backups. Yeah. But that's one thing that's important. That's one reason I like this EOTech, because it's so easy just by muscle memory to get feel, and it's made that way. It's got raised braille type markings on it, so you can set it without looking at it.
It's tactile. It's easy to feel.
It's easy to feel.
You do get individuals that run a magnifier behind these, or if they're running some kind of night vision. If the controls are on the back of the optic,
You can't get to
you
them.
can't get to them.
You can't get to them, so.
And the battery life on EOTechs especially, I'm not digging on them because I love EOTechs and aim points, and it's just the battery life drops significantly if you can't turn these things off.
Right.
Turn them on.
But you know, imagine driving with one hand and dialing the sight it with the other hand.
Right.
And with that, I can do that. Now, I'm not recommending that you do that without practicing it and so forth. But this is a lot of reps, guys, in an emergency situation. Okay, so that's why I chose the EOTech.
It's easy to go down the rabbit hole with that.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
really
It
easy to go
is.
down the
So
rabbit
we'll have cars wrapped around trees. You know.
Exactly. Other than that, would you run a Viltor
Right,
stock on that?
and that allows me, first of all, it's got the anti-skid on the back.
Yeah.
And it allows me to carry some extra batteries, which I have had to do that. And you mentioned that the battery life with the EOTech is not that great. You know, and every time we change shifts, I change batteries. So that's every 4 months.
Right.
Okay, I change batteries in there, but I do keep a couple of extra ones in these compartments here. And I kind of rotate out, you know, I push forward with that. So if I have to, you know, make that change, it's right there.
Yeah, and let's not, let's not give the impression that these batteries go out every 20 minutes. They don't. It's nothing crazy like that. But there you have it.
You got to stay on top of it.
Every 4
yeah,
months,
you
you're
got to stay
swapping
on top of it.
because this is a critical piece of gear for you.
Small price to pay.
You can't have a failure when,
Right.
when you need the rifle. So, and I think that's a great idea. A lot of people don't think about that. They don't think about the backups for their lights.
Right, and this is compatible. This battery is compatible with that one.
Yeah, and that
So
way you're running
one
one
battery. Yep.
CR123 for either
Everything, for everything.
either function. So a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
And these are things that we see all the time with students coming in, and we all have our recommendations. A lot of people like to talk about sling placement. They like to talk about light. They like to use pressure switches on the light instead of a rocker switch or a direct press.
Right.
Well, I want to hear your thoughts
Okay,
on that.
so
I have some of my
sure.
own.
So I run the TLR2, which is a laser, and it's a white light, and basically I've got a pressure activation on the bottom, which is for momentary, and just a hard on-off on the top, which is for constant. Okay, and and I like it this way because it's always going to be at the same place every time. Okay. It's not at any of my contact points on the rifle, so I have to make a conscious effort to go to this, which eliminates negligent white light discharges,
Right.
which can mean a compromise.
Right.
Okay, and it does give me the option of using intermittent light, say if I'm doing a stealth type search, things of
Flash,
that,
move.
light move, conserve battery life, or if we're doing an extensive, say like on a tactical situation, you want to just turn it on and forget it, and you've got it just depends on what the situation calls for. Okay, versus if I've got a pressure switch that's cabled to this. Okay, first of all, you've got to secure it. They make devices to secure that pressure switch. People use zip ties, they use Velcros. Velcro, it's whatever you want to use, but it's just something else you have to put on that. You got a snag hazard with that cord there, so you've got to deal with that. And then placement, okay? You're looking at potential accidental white light discharges because we do strange things under stress. So having this here just kind of eliminates that. It does have a laser on it. I do have the laser zeroed to my optic at about 15 yards, okay? So now you do have an offset with this because it's mounted on the side. So you close targets, impact's going to be right. Far targets, impact's going to be the opposite because the crossover's on horizontal, not on a vertical plane. But this one's not too bright. There is such thing as having too bright of a light. It's bright enough. I'll leave it at that.
A lot of people want all the lumens.
And
give me the power of the sun.
you can lose your own night vision because of that. It illuminates smoke out in front of you, which is like high beam and fog on a car. But that's why I like it the way that I do for a patrol rifle setting. Okay?
Well, and I have a similar thought process. I don't use any kind of a pressure switch or tail for that same reason, is avoiding that negligent white light discharge. I prefer to have a direct on-off or press and hold to stay on.
Yeah, you got your constant right there. It's
and I have
on.
constant on
And this
mine as
hand's
well.
free, and I've still got a light or whatever.
Right.
and there's your intermittent, so it's easy.
Because there's always, where does your hand go? Now you're modifying where your hand goes, as opposed to staying on a regular grip on the rifle.
And you know, for me, Terry, that's an opinion formed after, you know, hundreds of building searches, tactical operations. Because before I did run with a pressure switch,
Right.
and those things were changed for a reason. So that's why I go with a constant like that right now.
And so, you know, people ask about that. The other thing that people ask about is I know you've got a small vertical grip
Right.
on here. I tend to not run with vertical grips, but I kind of wanted to take your thought process on that, because I know you have a unique thought process on how and why you run it.
Right. This is something, it's very personal to me. It's just not, you know, I'm not recommending a vertical grip one way or the other. I don't use it in the typical vertical grip fashion. To me, it just form fits my hand exactly like a pistol grip, okay?
And where you're matching.
Yeah, I've got this with the pistol, this with the rifle, and to more it's just a consistent feel.
Right.
Is the reason that I run that. So when I'm at a full ready with my patrol rifle, my grip is exactly the same placement as it would be on my handgun.
Right.
And that's just something for me that, you know, as long as I've been shooting a rifle, I've been doing that.
Well, and one of the reasons, so that's part of why I bring that up. The other thing that I've seen, especially even in the law enforcement 2-day patrol rifle and the civilian classes, is people will have these huge, long vertical grips.
Bipods, lights,
bipods,
you know,
lights,
coffee maker,
and
everything you can fit in there. You know,
there's an air conditioner in that
storage
thing.
compartments.
But you know, I noticed some struggle getting that rifle in position. Getting, and we talk about it, trying to get that rifle in and around a barricade, in and around a vehicle.
Well, the first time they have to clear a school building,
Yeah.
or something of that size with all that excess weight up there,
Extra weight.
it'll come off.
Yeah, bipods,
It'll
they
come
go
off.
away.
You know, and the way we teach using that tripod method anyway negates the need for having a bipod.
Right.
It's not a sniper rifle, okay?
Right.
So it's not a piece of equipment that, you know, we need to have.
Yeah, it's one of those that, you know, we talked in the military all the time, and I know law enforcement talks about it, 2 ounces or pounds and pounds or
Pounds of death.
because it adds up.
And it's on the front end
On
too.
the end of the rifle.
So you got leverage working against you.
Gravity is not
Sure.
your friend. Okay, so let's talk about the sling real
Okay.
quick. That's always a big. Woo! There's a million thoughts.
A lot of
schools
opinions
thought
on it.
Lots of opinions on it. Running a sling. How do you attach it? Where do you attach it? Do you run single point? Do you run 3-point? Do you run 2-point? Just kind of wanted to run through your thought process.
Yeah, on that, first of all, I get asked, what is this piece of tape on there? So when I'm storing this in the vehicle, I want to have it, okay, so where this sling is not, it doesn't get hung on items, armrest,
Right.
radio console, etc. when I deploy.
It's not flopping around.
It's not flopping around, okay? So I keep a roll of painter's tape like that in there, and then when I'm done, I'll just re-tape it. You know, it comes off easily. I started with 3-point sling, and that's kind of a pullover from the MP5s.
Right.
Okay, so I started with 3-point sling. I like a 3-point sling. It holds the weapon secure, but at the same time, it's a little harder to transition shoulder to shoulder for. Sometimes you have to just take it out and put it around your neck. Okay, 1-point sling to me, not bad, better than a traditional sling, but there's only one attachment point, and it allows the rifle to pivot. Okay?
It does.
So that excess movement right there, first of all, safety hazard. Second of all, you know, when we run transitions and things of that nature, that movement of that rifle does cause, and you know, people say, well, you can cuff it or whatever. You don't have time to do that.
Right, when
You
you're
know,
doing that transition.
it causes excess movement. I prefer the 2-point sling because it allows me to rapidly get into and get out of my rifle. And like I said, I already brought up the fact that I have to deploy rifle ready.
Right.
Okay, so I can have this on me, and I actually train myself to do that while I'm operating my vehicle.
Right.
Okay, and then I have the one slider right here that I can adjust for tension. But once again, if I need to go hands-free, I can let this hang, and it's very stable. It holds close to the body, and so forth, but then again, it's just preference. I can get into it and out of it and so forth, and that's basically why I have stayed with the 2-point sling. Now, I do recommend, okay, to people that on these attachment points, you have a secondary, you know, zip tie it or something of that nature, just in case, because these QDs aren't flawless.
No,
Okay,
Murphy's always out for stalking.
nothing is.
Yeah.
But you know, people prefer the 1-point. Good on them. They prefer the 3-point. That you can make them all work. They all work. My personal preference is the 2-point. Right. I don't want to be that attached to it if the situation goes hands-on. But on the other hand, it's attached enough to do what I need it to do.
Well, and kind of a takeaway we saw in the military with single points is they're great when you're working in close urban environment or in interior movement. But if you're going distance or you're working in open field, that single point starts wearing you out.
It does. It does.
You're not distributing weight.
And you know, this here, Terry, I can move it behind my back if I need to, and completely get it out of play. With the single point, it always returns to center.
It does.
So
it does. So.
But you know, a lot of people run them, and you can make them work. Okay.
Train to it. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. Now, do you have a preference on ambi safety versus, you know, left side safety only, the standard AR safety?
Right. For me, because I'm a right-handed shooter, I prefer just a single side because it's less trip hazard, so to speak. Okay. Right. But that works for me. I'm not a left-handed shooter.
Right.
Okay. So I don't like, you know, too much extension and stuff over here because, you know, think about it. When this is hung, it is against my equipment.
Sure.
So if I got a big gawky safety lever on that, it can very easily be activated or deactivated, you know. Brushing against my gear. Right. Okay. And that's another reason why I don't want one on both sides at this point. Okay. Is just the less I want this here where my thumb can dominate that safety, right. And that's good enough for me.
It's your manipulation.
Yes, I don't need more. Okay, but if I were a left-handed shooter, obviously I would want to mirror image that. Yeah. So I would want one that would only protrude on this side of the weapon.
Right, that way you're left.
Okay,
you can get to it.
And it's on the shooter to set their weapon up. You know, a lot of people get an issued rifle and they have to go with what they have, but then again, take matters into your own hand. That's your life dependent on this, okay?
Sure. One of the other things that we look at and people talk about all the time is how much do I need to spend? Because I get this question. Charging handles and things like that, and do I need to swap things up?
You know, I do have an extended charging handle on this, and that's just for one-hand manipulation. You know, I can easily activate that with one hand. I have broken these before, though, Terry.
I have too.
You know, and that is a modification but when it breaks, this one that's going to break right here, it basically becomes a standard charging handle. You can still run it. So, but that's just a personal preference. It's not really anything I would recommend. That's just something for me. But that's probably the only modification that I've made to that weapon as far as any of the actual functional parts of it.
And I tend to run a medium-sized extended charging.
But you know, this
to minimize some of that.
This last class we had two that were manufactured by a common, you know, a popular gun manufacturer. Right. We had two of them go bad in this last class. They failed. They broke.
Well,
okay.
And that's true of any gear.
Sure.
No matter how good the manufacturer, occasionally with hard use, you're going to get failures. So you have to be prepared to cover down on that.
All right. This is just a muzzle protector. These were actually given to me by a friend of mine that was with one of the SF groups, and he just sent me a box of these. So it's a good idea to you know, because it does ride vertical, to just help protect that, keep the barrel clean. It's designed to where you can fire it while it's on the barrel, and it vents out the sides without supposedly no distortion. Now we want to make a precision 200-yard shot with it, but I do train myself to take this off. It's not hard to teach yourself to do those types of things, and that's just part of my deployment procedure is to take that off. So
So let's talk about when you deploy this. So when you're carrying squad car ready, there's a lot of talk out there about whether or not you have a round in battery with a
Right.
one in the chamber. How do you carry them? What's the
Okay.
thought process?
Safety is of the utmost importance,
Sure.
okay? And we've already talked about things getting manipulated unintentionally on this weapon.
Right.
There's been more than one accident happen in law enforcement circles of officers entering and exiting a vehicle, especially on bailouts, and they inadvertently fire off a round.
Sure.
Okay? So the procedure is bolt forward on an empty chamber.
Okay.
Weapon is on safe. Dust cover is closed. 28 round magazines, not 30, 28 out of 30 to alleviate a little spring pressure in there, is locked into the mag well.
You're sure to pick up that.
You're sure to pick up that first round if for whatever reason you have to charge on a closed bolt.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, for a lot of the military guys, it's a condition 3 weapon.
Okay. Yeah, and we use that same.
Yeah, mag inserted, no round in the chamber.
Cooper's conditions, right. And that's basically our squad car carry on that. Now, different agencies have different policies, and I've seen some agencies that, they're still carrying these in Pelican cases in the trunk.
Right, locked up.
Locked up, a magazine is not in it, and so forth, and you've got to basically get out and assemble a weapon to get into duty, okay? So we want to be a little bit more ready than that, but then again, you've got to, part of my loading procedure is charging the weapon, okay? Or part of my bailout procedure, I should say, you got charging the weapon, okay? So I got the sling, the optic, removal of my barrel protection, actual charging of the weapon, which once again may be done one-handed while I am still driving.
Right.
Okay, still moving to that call.
Rifle can go down.
Go
both
down.
ends of the deck.
Yep,
You
yep,
can cycle it.
yep, right between the legs, but
Yeah.
Careful not to flag anything.
Right.
You just got to work your procedure.
Okay. The only other things that I see in the classes is again that tendency to want to hang one of everything off the rifle.
Right, and going back to where we started with this, for a rifle class, be it a patrol rifle or civilian class, okay, you don't need to break the bank for your rifle, okay? What we recommend is quality weapon, good optic, good backup optics, and those things are a must. That's where you don't want to skimp on, okay? Is you want to get and there's quality optics out there that don't break the bank.
Yeah, you don't
okay?
have to
You
spend
$700. You don't have to spend that.
No,
okay,
you don't have to.
just do your homework and good optics, backup optics, because these aren't 100%. Okay, quality sling and the hardware you need to properly attach that, and then a quality light. And if you're just taking a weekend civilian class, that's in the daytime. You don't even need the light. The night comes later. So that's not even something you would initially need to buy just to get into training. Okay, but most important, if you don't have the optic, open sights are fine. Okay, and this.
And a good sling.
That is a must.
Sure.
The sling that comes with the weapon is just going to be a standard traditional sling, and the hardware to attach it is because you want the weapon to basically hang flat against your body. All right. So when in this, people ask, why is it on the outside like that? I said, well, it's there because that helps keep it. That helps keep it tight. But you basically want the weapon to sling in this position. Okay, and with the one that comes with it and the attachment points underneath it, it's going to always want to rotate back around like so. Okay, and the sling's definitely not going to be long enough. So that's the main thing that you need to get started. The weapon works fine right out of the box.
Okay. I think the last thing that I said, this is the last thing is, people talk about magazines, various quality magazines, what's high end, what's good, what's bad. From my perspective, it comes down to mil-spec metal magazines don't have any heartburn with them as long as they've got anti-tilt followers
Yeah,
in them.
because that's
Magpul, obviously, they've made a name for themselves supplying now the Marine Corps and most civilian shooters and law enforcement shooters.
and the price is right.
Price is good.
Generally available.
Hex Mag, some of the other companies out there, they make pretty solid magazines. MFT's working on some good stuff out there. So my takeaway from it, as long as it's a quality construction, anti-tilt follower,
And you've proved it out.
And you proved, yeah.
It's you don't just buy it and say it's brand new. So this is going to be my #1 mag right here. Bad mistake. Run that mag.
Yeah, run it first.
Run it. You got to maintain it and clean it and so forth. But you want to run it. I mean, you don't have to beat the heck out of it. But if you check your consumer reviews, and if nobody's having issues with them, agencies are using them, things of that nature. Just run your particular mag, because you never know what quality control issue slipped through on the assembly line, and you got the one. Yep.
I mean, we've seen it out here on the
We've seen
range
it.
in
So
classes.
just prove it out.
Brand new magazines, the follower breaks and it won't function, and it's a brand new magazine.
Other than that, Terry, I mean, that's basically the setup, and that'll get a student through a class, and that'll get a patrol officer through duty right there. It's just your basic run-of-the-mill setup. So
You can really minimize.
Yeah.
What you can minimize what you have on the rifle and still be exceedingly effective.
But you want to go with quality for what you have, okay? Sights, quality, sling, quality, and then the attachment hardware for that, okay? So not the cheapest attachments you can buy on eBay. You want good name brand stuff that we know is holding up. So.
Not the cheap $49.99.
No, you can get something that looks like this that's not this, okay?
And they're not.
Buy the name brand, okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate it. It's a good question. So I hope we've cleared up some things on patrol rifle readiness and so forth. So remember, if you're not training, you ought to be. And if you're not training at Weapons Academy, come check us out. See what we're doing. Terry, we'll catch you on the next one.
Next time.
Y'all take care.
Take care.